Hello everyone, welcome to Property Zone Live again. Today we have come into the third day of FMCO. I think this is a new word we all being so creative. It means to the total lockdown. I hope everyone's doing fine. Everybody is staying safe at home. So today the topics, as everyone has seen, is probably one of the articles, one of the title you just picked up maybe 2 weeks ago, and then you just put it behind. But I want to bring this up to the topic today, the inflation, all right, of 4.7%, which is the highest since 2018. I think we should actually pay a little bit of attention to what it is and how we actually can affect us, every one of us, actually in the mid to longer time. Now, I will prepare some of the slides. Let me just pull out the screen so that I can share with you accordingly. All right. Now, the topic, and again, is Malaysia recorded 4.7% inflation rate in April, all right, which is just less than 2 months ago. How does it affect us? How does it affect you and me? Okay, some of the people or some of my friends, they ask me, oh, Sean, why we need so many economic indicators? Why we need to pay attention to so many figures? All right. So every time we look at newspapers, sometimes we flip through Malaysia, Guinea, or Facebook. They'll tell us about inflation. They'll tell us about budget deficit, fiscal deficit. And today we talk about inflation. Sometimes we just have to see it from a personal health perspective. Just like right now, body, the vitals figure is very important. Just like when you go for basic medical checkup. I'm not talking about a thorough one, just like you go clinic, all right? The first thing the doctor may check with you is they want to check your temperature, they want to check your blood pressure, and they want to check your heart rate, okay? I think by now, everyone probably have their body temperature checked the most, okay, in these past 2 years compared to their whole lifetime, all right? Every time you go to any store, you get body, anytime you see below 37, you take a breath. You actually feel relief. All right. So the things come to here. So let me just do a metaphor. All right. I know it's not 100%, but I just want to give you a simplified version of it. How our body health check is related to one of the economic indicator, just like inflation. So inflation always bad? No, actually, it's not really. It's basically a normal process or progress, I would say, for every country to have inflation. But the ultimate point is that it has to be within and manageable levels. All right. I think the other things you can think of is inflation is that you think of it as a household expenditure increment. Perhaps how much you have spent in 3 years ago, you probably spend 5,000 every month on your household expenditures, right? It could be kids' tuition, it could be your grocery shopping and some of the maintenance of the house. Then fast forward 1 year, the 5,000 increased to 5,300. And subsequent increase to 5,005, 5,008. So in this, you are seeing an inflation in your household expenditure. So sometimes by itself, it may not indicate much of it. For example, we try to keep our heart rate in a possible optimal range, right? Just like recently, I brought my father to see a cardio. What the doctor said, that try to keep your father's heart rate below 100. But does it mean that sometimes our heart rate goes to 130, 140 is bad? Not necessarily, because sometimes we go for a run, we go for a jog, and we come back with that, our heart rate, it goes up to 130, 140. True also. So when you bring back to this inflation, if you just look at the inflation figures, even in percentage itself, it may not tell us the whole picture, right? Just like the household expenditure. What we need to look at is perhaps one of the most important things is while we are seeing an increment of the so-called inflation in our household expenditure per se, but is our income level increased accordingly? So one of the things we want to see is if our country inflation is increasing, All right, it's on an increasing mode, but is our income also increased in tandem, which is measured by the national GDP. All right, this is probably another figures that we need to pay attention to. So the next, when the title come out 4.7% in APR, actually it shocked some of the people who actually follow the inflation rate in Malaysia. Because as I mentioned to you, the figure shocked some of us, took some of us by surprise. Is actually 4.7%, is one of the highest. It's actually the highest since 2018. 2018 to now, if you measure the inflation rate month by month, we're talking about more than 30 months already. So we have recorded the highest since the past 30 months, right? So if you want to know the other side, the other perspective of understanding inflation, we always talk about how much we can use 10 ringgit to buy 20 years ago, how much you can buy 10 years ago, and how much 10 ringgit can buy us today if you go grocery. All right, probably you don't need a card. One hand, you can carry the 10 ringgit worth of goods. But if you're going to put today as a perspective, as a starting point, you push forward 10 years. All right, imagine how much 1,000 will worth 10 years later if inflation stay at 4.7%. It means that whatever you are getting 1,000 will only worth 618. Now, this is particular concerning. A lot of people using this as a fixed deposit, how much you get in return and how much the real money will worth in the future part. I think that's many of us have seen the articles. But what I want to share with you today is a little bit different, is about the salary. So Malaysia, probably in line with some of the countries like Malaysia, has suffering something that the stagnance in the salary in pay. So what one of the concerning perspective is that if one person is enjoying the same income, is getting the same income, for example 3,000, right, and his income has not increased much, let's say just stagnant for the 10 years, what it means that the actual income he's earning would be 3,000 times the factor of 0.618. So it only worth less than 2,000 in today's value. So this is the other thing people are looking at, not just the saving rate, but also on the income, maybe the salary earning perspective as well. Shall we be concerned? Yes and no, but maybe just let me help digest a bit. Okay, first of all, one alarming sign, or maybe one of the warning sign, the light is making noise and alerting us, is this 4.7% is probably higher than expected. Okay, there's one thing. But the other thing we want to pay close attention to, all right, is if it coupled with the contraction in GDP. Means that is our country productivity growing or not? I'm looking, that one will tell you an overall snapshot of the country, but also we want to know, does it come with high unemployment rate or not? So I think high unemployment rate would have a closer direct open impact on an individual level. Okay, the last thing we want, as you can see here, we don't want stagflation. I think stagflation is some of the words some of you may have heard of it. It's basically you're having a stagnance in the growth of the country productivity and income and individual productivity. But at the same time, the price of the goods and the price of the service that we are paying is increasing at the same time. So this is the last thing we want. And in US, back in the year of 1968 and 1970s, these 3 years, US recorded 11% inflation rate. Okay, 11% inflation is very high. And also at the same time, they are having 33% unemployment rate. It means 1 out of 3 people cannot get a job even if they want to. So this is really, really bad. Okay. The other things people may concern is that whatever goes up may never come down. Okay, I think we all went through the period. We have announced GST, and after 2018, when GST was abolished, the price of goods did not follow the expectation. The price of goods did not come down with the abolishment of GST. All right. Some say because government reintroduced SST, which is the same, they changed a different name. But some they say it's just because of the behavior of the business people. Okay. So one of the closest scenario or examples I think it can relate to everyone is sugar. A lot of times when you see a sugar goes up by 20 cents per kg, next thing you see, the coffee that you enjoy, the day you enjoy, the drinks that you enjoy goes up by 10 cents or 20 cents accordingly. Not too long after. Sometimes you wonder, does the businessman use half a kg or 1 kg of sugar to produce 1 cup of drinks for you? Of course, the answer is no. But what you're seeing is basically an effect the being felt on society. The owner of the drink store may telling that yes, no, the sugar has increased by 20 cents per kg, but his living expenditure has been impacted by higher inflation. So they have no choice. Some of the in certain circumstances, they have to charge a slightly price on the products they render, the service they render, in order to cope with the higher expenditure they are faced on other items, not just on the sugar they purchase. Okay. So the next thing, the concern, of course, as I mentioned to you, if the new graduate or the people who is under employment, their salary never goes up, the inflation will really eat into their real value of income. Okay, of course, these are other things. It's a concerning perspective. Next, what's the cause of this inflation spike? The major reason, if you've seen from Department of Statistics, the articles you read, and I'm actually quoting from Sinju Daily on the 24th of May. Energy costs. Energy costs play a big part of contributing 4.7% inflation rate registered in April. Okay? Not too long ago, we are seeing sometimes, I think March, April last year, on the WTI, the crude prices not only dropped to zero, it dropped to negative region. All right. And then we're seeing every week the government is adjusting the petrol prices downwards. All right. Below 2 ringgit for RON 97. But we were locked down at home. We see the price, we can't enjoy. Okay. But there's one part aside. But the petrol price, the energy cost did really reduce below 2 ringgit per liter, even for RON 97. So if you compare April last year and April this year, we are having a lower base. So in other words, what we are seeing petrol prices today, now our WTI, our crude oil has gone up by $70 per barrel, right? So what we are seeing now, an increment of the energy cost, the increment of the petrol contributed to this 4.7% spike in inflation rate. Because come and think about it, everything that you use, everything that you eat, everything sometimes that your whole family use, they can't run away from petrol. Even though you are no longer going out, even though you are buying something from Shopee, from Lazada, from Taobao, I think from acquiring the materials to the manufacturing, of course, to sending out to the port in China, transporting to the port in Malaysia and reach to the door of your house. All this cannot run away. You cannot escape from energy. All right. So energy cost will play a big part in all the whole process. Therefore, it's a major component contributing to inflation. And second, you will see the articles as well. Suez Canal blockage. The big ship, the Evergreen, blocked there. the whole thing got jammed up. Traffic jam at the canal has a spiral effect on almost commodities. When there's a shortage, people willing to pay extra money, actually a lot more, to get whatever few available goods that's available now, knowing the fact that the future stock will not be arriving so soon. So that one is causing, although for some people, the blockage is a short-term thing. But do remember, just like post-GST, when the price go up to a certain level for the end user, sometimes it's a bit difficult to come down due to various reasons. Okay. So the other things we want to know is that, okay, inflation is one thing. We know the cause. We know what it means, but at the same time, we want to know this inflation, when you're having higher than expected inflations, what does it mean to the market, right? When you say means to the market, it could be the means to the real economy, it could mean the stock market, it could be it could mean what it contribute to property market. But now we focus on something that that is reflecting faster, which is the stock market in US. If you can see the titles are global shares. By the way, this is from the Market Insider, dated 19th of May, which is not too long ago. All right. US also registered 4.2% inflation rate then. Okay. Global shares slide as inflation fears spook technology and crypto investors. So in other words, a higher than expected inflation actually has a negative impact on US stock market, especially the high growth sector in technology, as well as the volatile crypto market. And the other ones coming out from Bloomberg, as what you can see, dated May 5th of May, Nasdaq 100 days worst day since March, spooked by inflation fears. Okay. The other thing, on top of the inflation rate, just to share with you, Malaysia fiscal deficit to GDP. All right, we measure the deficit versus the national productivity is at 6%. Is up from 5.4, knowing the fact that the tax revenue is reduced because our country has been going so many phases of lockdown. All right, and government has to come up with additional budget, just like what I announced recently, right? Giving additional 40 billions. This is not helping the fiscal deficit also. And also this 6% is the highest since the global financial crisis 2008. So what our finance minister mentioned, that they will maximize the 65 billion fund approved by the parliament last year in order to combat the crisis generated from the COVID-19. The other things, national debt level is projected at 58.5%. That means our country owe a little bit more, up from previous estimate of 58%. But even though 0.5% doesn't seem much by the figure itself, but if you times the GDP value, okay, there's so many zeros behind. And just to let you know, Malaysia actually revised the statutory national debt against GDP. Previously, we have basically a general consensus that Parliament want to keep the national debt level for Malaysia below 55. But now, since the August of last year, they agreed to increase the cap. The threshold was 60%. So in other words, you're seeing here, the national debt level is actually inching closer towards the national threshold of 60% national debt versus GDP. Of course, we know the fact, our national debt level is increasing towards 60%, and the finance minister and the government actually they are quite concerned about this because we don't want to look bad in the rating agency, right? For all the figures will mean nothing if we can't contain COVID. To be honest, with all due respect, with the concern of the government, with the concern of finance minister, I think everybody will have to agree now we are at war. So the enemy that we are dealing with is invisible, is deadly, and is contagious. Sometimes we have to look beyond just the figure itself. We have to put the right money, even though it means raising more debt, even though it means surpassing the national threshold, because the rating agency probably will look at how a country recover from the COVID-19 pandemic rather than just look at the short-term national threshold. Because we all know that we are in an unconventional, we are in difficult times, right? Drastic situation require drastic measurement. Look beyond the figures, put the right money into the work to combat and contain the COVID-19. Do our part. I think all of us sitting at home now is doing our part, all right? If you have to go out, follow the SOP, all right? The most important thing is get ourselves and our family members vaccinated. I think some of the people are still waiting to get vaccinated, even they wanted to. Some of the people are still thinking about what brand to choose. No, is it possible I don't get the AstraZeneca because of the potential side effects? Actually, I get myself vaccinated on the 7th of May when it opened up on the 3rd day. All right, I'm fine, I'm okay now, although feverish for 2 days. All right, the major concern, I think you have seen many articles. All right, the risk of getting blood clotting for AstraZeneca is 0.0004%. But if you actually contracted with COVID-19, the risk of getting blood clotting is 16.5%. These are the figures you can see from our health ministry website. All right, so do our part, follow SOP, get ourselves and our family vaccinated. Okay, the best vaccination now is the one is able to be injected into our body. Whatever we can get, the vaccination is the best vaccination for now. So everyone, stay safe. This to conclude the property zone topic for today. Okay, see you all next time. Thank you very much.